How long wilt thou forget me, O Lord, forever? How long wilt thou hide thy face from me? How long shall I take counsel in my soul, having sorrow in my heart daily? How long shall my enemies be exalted over me? Consider and hear me, O Lord my God. Lighten my eyes, lest I sleep the sleep of death, lest mine enemies say, I have prevailed against him, and those that trouble me rejoice when I am moved. But I have trusted in thy mercy. My heart shall rejoice in thy salvation. I will sing unto the Lord, because he has dealt bountifully with me. Selah and Selah. Amen. Peace and welcome, friends, family, guests, wherever you are in the world, welcome. Before I begin, I just want to say, if you haven't had a chance to watch our Feast of Dedication or Day of Pentecost videos, please do, because we are all about celebrating our God, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And with these videos, you will see how we do it. Don't forget to like them, share them with your friends, and even comment. And in addition to that, if you would like someone from the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries to contact you, please fill out the form in the link below this video. So I am just so excited to be here today. For those of you who don't know, I am Officer Charmaine, and I'm saying this specifically because of the title. Your name and the book of life. This is the subject today. First of all, I want to start off with our history. You know, we have been bought from a land where we were living for a period of time. We've traveled throughout many lands in our life. When I say our, I'm speaking about our forefathers. Many of us here, most of us here, are here because of our forefathers. We call them today Jacobites. Why do we call them Jacobites? Because they are children of slaves. Because they are Israelites. For the most part, some have lost their way. But our job today is to help those who want to find their way back home, help them to understand their identity and know their name. When I say name, it's so important because we get lost in translation. We have been brought to this land, and many of us have had our names changed. And in that, when I say lost in translation, could you imagine, for example, if you knew that your grandfather was the one that helped to eradicate smallpox from this world? Could you imagine that? Imagine it was your grandfather that did that. There was a gentleman, they call him Onesimus, back in, I believe it was 1726 or so. He helped to eradicate smallpox using a procedure that he did back at home before he was taken into slavery. But nobody really knows this. Nobody really knows his name. But if you were related to him, you probably wouldn't know because, first of all, what was his original name? Nobody knows. And this was the name that was given to him. And just imagine, say for example, that you just happen to change your name or your parents happen to change their name. Where is that legacy? Where is your foundation? I'm just saying, think about it. Just recently, I learned of a young lady. She's a 34-year-old doctor. Her name is Kismikia Corbett. And the most amazing thing about this woman, apart from the fact that she is also a Jacobite, a child descendant of slaves, a Jacobite from North Carolina, I should add, for my North Carolina friends, family, and brethren. She was at the forefront at the COVID-19 vaccination. Her and her team led the development of the COVID-19 vaccination. I'm just saying, these are names of individuals that are leading the way, and there are so many. I don't know if any of you had a chance to listen to Elder Kurtz and Elder Andel's music. One of them, it speaks about all of these inventors, and sometimes it's such a sad thing to hear, because you think to yourself, okay, so what's happened? My people are so skillful and so brilliant, yet have they stopped inventing? Have they stopped creating? I wonder, because it really is a sad thing. The name is such a powerful thing. Some cultures, most cultures that I know of, take the name very importantly. The name of a child, when a child is given a name, it is with reason and with purpose. It's not just a fad. It's not just, oh, I want to join this group and I want to name my child whatever. In the Muslim culture, and I say this because I do understand a lot about the Muslim culture. If there was an orphan, for example, and you decided to adopt that child, you could not change that child's name. As a matter of fact, it would be your duty to make sure that child always remembers his or her name. The names are normally made up of the first name, the father's name, the grandfather's name, and maybe the tribe's name. So that child will never forget where he or she came from. And I'm saying this because I think in this day and age, we are very frivolous about the names that we have. And after doing some research, I was really quite shocked at the amount of people. And it's not just people. Let's be specific here. It is Jacobites, the children, the descendants of slaves, how quickly they are ready to abandon their names. But later on, you're going to see why that might not be a good idea. And I'm here and I'm speaking to you because I do this research and I find it fascinating and I want to share it with you. Likewise, my brethren, they want to share it with you too. We're not here to convince you, right? Because you're going to do what you're going to do regardless of what we say. But sometimes it's important to understand what the consequences are of our actions. So I just figure, you know what? It's better to know. I mean, at the end of the day, I know some of you may not believe in this, but if there is a time when you have to give an account for your life, you cannot turn around and say that I didn't know, because the message is out there. And it's not just in this video, it's in many others. You go on the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries YouTube channel and you'll find a slew of videos that will tell you the importance of who you are, whether you want to believe it or not. First of all, I want us to go to Exodus chapter 2. We're going to have some fun, don't worry. So let's turn to Exodus chapter 2. We're going to start right from the beginning, right here. And there went a man of the house of Levi, and took a wife of the daughter of Levi. And the woman conceived and bare a son. And when she saw him, that he was a goodly child, she hid him 3 months. And when she could not longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrushes, and dabbed it with slime and pitch, and put the child therein. And she laid it in the flags by the river brinks. And his sister stood afar off, to wit what would be done to him. Now you imagine, this is during a very terrible time. A very terrible time when the children of Israel, the parents, the firstborn, the males, were being persecuted. They were being killed at birth. I always say that I'm a very visual person. So when words come to me, I see pictures, and it's just very horrifying when you think that someone's going to take a helpless little baby and kill them. And this is what's happening to our forefathers. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her maidens walked along by the riverside. And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. And when she opened it, she saw the child. And behold, the babe wept, and she had compassion on him, and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." I say that very slowly because you know what I'm saying. When she looked at him, okay? She looked at him, that's all she had to do. And she figured out that he was one of the Hebrews' children. Not because of the color of his skin, not because of the clothes he was wearing, as some might want you to believe, but by the mark of the covenant. And do you know what the mark of the covenant is for all those that are new? Let me tell you, it is the sign of circumcision. It is what our forefather Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob did according to the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob's instruction. That's what they did. They followed the instructions. So they kept the covenant, even in that terrible time. So when she saw the babe, she opened the ark and she saw the babe wept. And she had compassion on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, his sister, this is the baby's sister. Now you imagine she's a little girl, okay, maybe about 10 years old, very, very smart. She sees this woman take the ark out of the water, and being so smart at just 10 years old, she runs over there to speak to Pharaoh's daughter. That was a very brave thing to do. But listen to what she says. "Shall I go and call thee a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for thee?" That's a very smart little girl. I'm telling you, that is a very smart little girl. She's going to get a Hebrew woman, but not just any Hebrew woman. And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go," and the maid went and called the child's mother. Mother, okay? So she went to get the mother. I think she's just a smart little girl. I just had to put that out there because, you know, sometimes we take these things for granted. And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, "Take this child away and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages." And the woman took the child and nursed it. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moses. And she said, "Because I have drawn him out of water." We're going to take some time, hopefully, throughout this session here, and we're going to look at some of the things that Moses went through, because I think it's very pivotal to our title today. But one of the things I want you to see here and bear witness with me is that this woman, she is not an Israelite. She is an Egyptian. But she's not just any Egyptian. She is Pharaoh's daughter. So she's way up there in the big house, the big house, so to speak. She has a child, or she finds this child, and she gives him, what do you think she gave him? Do you think she gave him an Israelite name? I don't think so. She gave him an Egyptian name. She called him Moses. Why? Because he was drawn from water. And that is another very powerful statement, because if any of you are reading these scriptures today, what name do you hear? Who was the one that the God of Israel used as his tool to deliver the children of Israel? Was it not a man called Moses? And throughout history, how many Moses have popped up in an attempt to lead the children of Israel out of their slavery and out of their perils? How many? Moses. But has anyone sat back and thought, that's an Egyptian name? That's got nothing to do with Israel. That's an Egyptian name. I repeat, an Egyptian name. A Hamite name for that. Moses. And you know what? He was close with the God of Israel. He was probably one of the closest people to the God of Israel. But he never changed his name. He knew who he was, and he became who he was supposed to be in fullness. He was 100. You could not turn around and say, oh, I don't think you're an Israelite because, you grew up in Pharaoh's house, the big house, and, you didn't really go through what we went through. You couldn't say that to him. You could never. He was Israelite through and through, top and bottom, but he carried an Egyptian name. Remember that. So when you go to the registry office to change your name to whatever it may be, remember the man called Moses, a simple man. I want to tell you a story about another simple man. And I want to show you in the scriptures what that kind of transpires to. Okay, so back in 1940, a baby was born in the rough parts of Guyana. And he grew. All Boys Town was his main area where he grew up. But one of the most incredible things is that everybody called him Malcolm. So if he was naughty, it was Malcolm. If he was good, it was, oh, Malcolm. Maybe he was called Melly once or twice, but it was Malcolm. So he grew up responding to Malcolm like it was nothing. It was his name. And, as we grow, and I'm sure many of you can relate, as you grow, you get together with certain individuals and maybe you want to form a little group or something. Maybe you may have a name for your group, your little clique or, your little band or gang, if that's the worst case. But, maybe you've been through that. And maybe in your group, maybe everybody had nicknames. Sunshine and Dreamer and Flower Child and, different names. But likewise, he too changed his name. Not, a nickname. He had a nickname. It was actually Nicky. So Malcolm was known as Nicky to his friends. And you know what? It was a great little group. They grew together, they played out, they played music, they were into music, they went to clubs, they socialized together, and he was known by Nicky to his friends. And as a matter of fact, he grew so big within his community and started to travel all over Guyana to the point whereby it came a time for him to branch out. So as part of that, he needed to travel. And what do you need to do when you have to travel? You need a passport, right? You need a passport. In some countries, before you even get a passport, you need to have your birth certificate because your birth certificate comes from the passport, right? So Malcolm, also known as Nicky, went to the passport office where his friend works. Said, oh, by the way, you know what? Could you do me a favor? Could you find my birth certificate for me so I can apply for a passport? So he goes there and she says, okay, very good. 3 days had passed. And by this time, Nicky was probably thinking not very pleasant things about her. It's like, where is this woman? She's supposed to be helping me out. She's supposed to be my friend. She hasn't even called me. So he decides to call her. And she says, I can't find any birth certificate with the name of Malcolm. And he said, please continue looking. It's, Malcolm Porter, 1940. Please look in your, it must be there somewhere. And so she continues looking. And he even threw in, maybe it's under Nicky. And he knew that it wasn't there, but he thought, there must be something there. I mean, he exists. So she continues looking. She goes, the only thing that I found, which is really close, is a birth certificate with the name Shadrach Porter, which was also born in 1940. And he's like, no, Shadrach is my grandfather's name. That's not it. Look for my birth certificate. So, it's not clicking, because it's like, how am my name is not there. It's not written there. Eventually, it dawned on him that was his birth certificate. So Malcolm, also known as Nicky, was actually Shadrach. And one of the most incredible thing is that was the name of his grandfather. His grandfather had registered his name as Shadrach Porter at his birth. Isn't that incredible? That is, to me, it's just really incredible. But most of you will probably look and say, oh yeah, well, Shadrach, yeah, isn't that a Babylonian name? Okay, let's take a look. Let's go to Daniel. Daniel chapter 1. Okay. I think it's just, how everything just falls into place the way it's supposed to fall into place. To me, that is just an incredible thing. Our God, he doesn't do things by accident. So let me see, where should we read from? Daniel chapter 1. Okay, I'm going to read from number 1. Okay. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, into Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into the hands with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar, to the house of his God. And he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God. And the king spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of the eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel, of the king's seed, and of the princes, children in whom no blemish, but was well flavored and skillful in all wisdom, and cunning in knowledge and understanding science, such as had the ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans. Now, this is so incredible, because you imagine once upon a time when your village, family, country was subjected to another nation, when they came and they ravaged your village, instead of killing everyone, they would take the best of the best and take them back to their homes, and they would treat them pretty much as their own. They will feed them good meats, give them the wine, clothe them well, and teach them and educate them. And then they would grow up to serve the people in that capacity, because they were treated so well. It's not like the slavery that we know today, which was far from that. And maybe if time permits, we'll just go into a little bit of that. But these children were picked, the best of the best. And the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat and of the wine which he drank. So they didn't just have any wine and meat. They had that which was given to the king himself. So nourishing them 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. Now among these were the children of Judah. There was Daniel, there was Hananiah, there's Mishael, and there was Azariah. And unto them, unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names. Listen to this. These children, they came into Babylon with their names. However, because they were subjugated unto their captors, which was the Babylonians, their names were changed. Listen to this. He gave Daniel the name of Belshazzar, and Hananiah of Shadrach, and to Mishael Meshach, and Azariah, Abednego. I just wanted to show you. Okay, yes, Shadrach is definitely a Babylonian name. I'm sure none of you can say otherwise. Maybe it's spelled slightly different, but you get my drift here, right? Yet, like Moses, which is really quite, as I'm thinking about it right this instance, it is really quite amazing how you have one deliverer with an Egyptian name leading the children of Israel out of their captivity and not changing his name. Right? That was one. And I'm sure there have been some in between then and now. But now you have another deliverer of the children of Israel with a Babylonian name, and he did not change his name. As a matter of fact, he embraced it because he understood that this was not a light thing. It was not a light thing to be named after a grandfather who he so admired. There were many others. I mean, Esther, for example. Esther is not an Israelite name. Hadassah is. Hadassah is the name of an Israelite. But she was given the name of Esther. And we know her as Esther. As a matter of fact, there is a book named after her called Esther. Powerful. She could have changed her name. No, I'm not taking that name. No, it's the slave master's name. No. Think about it. It's the name that you have been given. And let's go on to see why it may be more important than what you think. Writing. Writing is another aspect. This is going to join your name to the book of life. How is that done? How do we join your name to the book of life? It is done by writing. And writing is such a crucial aspect of our life. As a matter of fact, we have our very own elder priest, Elder Castrilli, who writes down everything. Everything from the day one. You couldn't, if you sneezed, he would write it down, date, time, location. I'm telling you. And then he will recall it. You sneezed back then. I'm telling you. Yeah, you might think it's a joke, but he writes everything because writing is so incredibly important. You know, everything we do is so incredibly important because we do it with meaning and purpose. Why? Because of the instructions we were given by our Father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And let's go to the story. We're going to continue a little bit with Moses here. So let's go to Exodus 24 very quickly. There's a few scriptures here, and I may not get through all of them. I can go through the gist of it, but it's so nice to be able to see it for your own eyes, with your own eyes. Okay, so Exodus 24. Exodus 24:12. Okay, now this is about Moses, and if I read and you're not getting, then I'll continue to explain. And it says here, and the Lord said unto Moses, come up to me into the mount and be there, and I will give thee tablets of stones and a law and commandments which I have written, that thou mayest teach them. So just a little bit of background. By this time, Moses has led the children of Israel out of the land of their captivity. They are currently in the wilderness. And Moses is communicating with God. And God says, you know what? I want you to come up to the mount, and I'm going to give you a tablet of the laws, the statutes, the commandments. They're all going to be written, and I'm going to give that to you. Moses spent 40 days in Mount Sinai. And during that time, the instructions, the laws, the statutes, the commandments, the guidance regarding the tabernacles, the altar, the colors of God, the priest's garment, etc., were all written down. See how crucial this time was? So you imagine you're way up there. All your people are down there doing whatever it is that they're doing. You're hoping that they're behaving themselves after that treacherous journey out of Egypt, across the Red Sea, almost losing their life, being scared, just completely. Everything they had was given up to the God of Israel. There was nothing of themselves. They didn't have spears. They didn't have, weapons. They were traveling with the guidance of the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Pharaoh and his men, the mighty armies of Egypt, were on their tail. So they were. Could you even imagine? You see waters that had no ends and that stood up straight like pillars, and you're walking along dry ground. That to me is the most terrifying thing to ever witness. You're walking, and any minute those walls could come tumbling down, and you're walking for miles, what seems like, to get out of this, on dry ground, with the pillars of water on your side and the enemy behind, but the God of Israel with a pillar of fire around you. And he's leading the children out. And after all of that, they come to an area where they can relax. And he says, you know what, I'm going up to the mountain to, go communicate with the God of Israel to find out more instructions. And he leaves them. What would you be doing? Wouldn't you be like, geez, that was just wow. That's just so incredible. Yeah, I'm saying this now. Of course, I wasn't there, but you would think that that's what people would be saying, right? Anyways. That was Exodus 24. And from Exodus 24 to Exodus 31, Exodus 24 to 31 were just instructions. They were just instructions, right? This is the law. This is the commandment. This is what you must do. This is how you have to behave. This is how you have to dress. This is what the things you must eat. This is who you are. And so this is what's taking place in all of these chapters. Let's go to Exodus 31 and see what happens. So Exodus 31, 18. Okay, before that, let's go up. Okay, so as I said, the God of Israel is giving Moses all of these things. He's talking about the altar. He's talking about the sacrifices. He's talking about ointments. He's talking about all these things for 40 days. And then after all this, in 18, it says, and he gave unto Moses when he had made an end of communing with him. So after speaking to Moses for all this time, on the mount, 2 tablets of testimony, tables of stone written. Hear this. Let me tell you why writing is so important. Written with the finger of God. Not Moses, the finger of God. If he writes, why not us? Why not us? Look at that connection. Is anything an accident? Okay. Exodus 32. From 16. And the tables were the work of God, and the writing was written of God, graven upon the tables. And when Joshua heard the noise of the people as they shouted, he said unto Moses, there is a noise of war in the camp. And he said, it is not the voice of them that shout for mastery, neither is it the voice of them that cry for being overcome. You see what I was saying before? You would think that they would be, oh my gosh, we've come out of this terrible, terrible place. It's not that voice that they're hearing. It says, and it came to, see, but the noise of them that sing do I hear. So they're singing for joy. And it came to pass, as soon as he came nigh unto the camp, that he saw the calf and the dancing, and Moses was, could you even imagine how angry he was? Oh my goodness, he was so angry. Oh my goodness, I've completely lost where I am. Oh yeah, there you go. So he's so angry. Moses' anger waxed hot, and he cast, oh my gosh, this is a gift from the Holy One of Israel, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. A gift given to him, written in the hands of God, written by his own hands and given to him. Moses' anger was so hot that he cast the tablets out of his hands and brake them beneath the mount. Oh my goodness, Israel, are you hearing this? This is the gift that the God of Israel gave you himself. And Moses was so angry, there's no comprehension anymore. There's nothing left there but heat of rage and anger and fire. And he takes those tablets and he smashes them at the end of the mount. Whoa, that is just frightening. And he took the calf which they had made and burnt it in the fire and ground it to powder and straw it upon the waters and made the children of Israel drink it. He was that angry. He stopped God from wiping them out. But he was so angry. He was so angry. He could not understand the God of Israel's anger. It's like, no, you can't go and wipe them out. If you go and wipe them out, what would all the other nations say? But when he saw that, it's like, oh my gosh, this was bad. This was so bad. We're going to continue. Let's go to Exodus 34. (34:1). Now this is what took place. And the Lord said unto Moses, you're not going to get another. I am not going to make you another set of stones. I tell you what you're going to do. You are going to hew thee 2 tablets of stones like unto the first. You're going to get it this time. And it says, I will write upon these tablets the words that were in the first tablets, which thou breakest. But it was more than that. It was so much more than that. Because as we read further down, let me see. It turned out that it was actually Moses himself that actually wrote it. He was the one. There wasn't the privilege there. It wasn't, the first time around he was sitting there and listening to all these fascinating instructions. Could you imagine? It was just a surreal time, just listening, gathering all this. And during that 40 days, he's not eating. So he is on a spiritual high that you can't even imagine, can't even comprehend. And he's way up there, and he's just listening to the God of Israel, just talking to him and telling him what he's supposed to do. It must be the best ever time. But this time around, it's focus. And he's still fasting for 40 days. He's still fasting the same amount of time, but this time, you write it. You get the stone, you write it. Go to that down to, let's see. I'm still at 34. I'm down to 27, verse 27. And the Lord said unto Moses, write thou these words, for after the tenor of these words I have made a covenant with thee and with Israel. And he was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights. He did neither eat bread nor drink water. and he wrote upon the tablets the words of the covenant of the 10 commandments. So this is what Moses was reduced to. He had to do this. You imagine the first one was a gift. The second one is make do. Do your best with this. This, I just wanted to express to you the importance of writing. And as we can see that writing, as Elder Castrilli does time and time again, he never misses a beat. He writes constantly. He's always writing. I admire him so much that I try, and I manage to do it for about maybe a week, if I'm lucky. And what happens? Then it's gone from me, and then I have to do it again, and I have to remember again, and I try again, and then it goes for me again. So it's always a constant battle of coming back to taking those notes, because I so admire what he does. So let's get this all together. You've heard about the name, the importance of the name. You heard about our own Moses, even Elder Shadrach Porter. You heard about the Moses of old. And you know many of our forefathers, even Joseph had a different name. You know, many of them were given different names. But one thing you must notice, they did not give themselves the names. They were given names. And the names that they were given, as we know with Onesimus, the individual that was instrumental in the mitigation of the smallpox breakout in Massachusetts, Onesimus, he had a name, but we only know him by the name that he was given by his slave master. That's the only name that we know him by. He did not have power over himself to give himself a name. His slave master did that. Moses, he could have changed his name. He did not. He kept his name. He understood it. Many cultures out there, they understand the legacy of a name. As I told you before about the Muslims, they do not change the name. However, the irony is, if you, a child of Jacob, a Jacobite, decided that you wanted to join, you wanted to become a Muslim, for example, you have to change your name. You know what that does to you? If you were related to this greatness, it will be cut off. Because who's going to write your name again when you decide to change it? Who's going to write your name on the birth certificate? Who's going to do that? You've changed your name. And if there was ever a thing called the Book of Life, which we know for a fact that there is, where is your name? Which name? The name you were born with, is it in the Book of Life? Can you say that for certain? Has it been blotted out? Imagine that. If the angels came and they said, yep, another one was born and his name is, and he's the son of. Another one was born and his name is, and he's the son of, which is the son of, which is the son of, which was the king of Israel. And you went and you changed you decide out of your own volition, for whatever reason, that you are going to change your name. You think that angel is going to turn around and say, where's my eraser? Where's my Tipex? Where's my whiteout? Where is it? Yeah, okay, so he's going to change his name to... You think he's going to do that? You think he's going to run back to the Book of Life every time you decide, I don't like the name Charmaine. No, I want to be Natasha. I like that name. It suits me. You know? Or I want to be see, I love the name Deborah. Yeah, Deborah, she was a strong Israelite. She was awesome. And I want to be known as awesome, and I'm going to change my name. You think, what's going to happen? Now, we have to play this because it's kind of hypothetical. But what happens if then the time comes, because it's going to come regardless of whether we want it or not, that it's time for us to sleep? And after that rest, we stand before those that are judging and say, who are you? Who are you? Hold on. I don't have a Deborah that was born. Who's your mother? Oh, your mother was Pep, but she never had a daughter called Deborah. Hold on a sec. Maybe tell me what was her mother's name. Millicent? Oh, but, yeah. It gets so confusing. Do you follow me? If I'm making sense to you, if any of this resonates with you, hit that 7. Hit it right now. Hit the like button right now. If it makes sense, if any of it resonates with you. So let's go and look at the book of life. We're going to just quickly sneak into Revelations because this is where it really matters. Let's go to Revelations 3. Okay, Revelations 3. Keep your name, love it for what it is. Don't cast it away because you don't know what you're doing, really, honestly, because no one's gone away and come back and said, this is how it is. So Revelations 3:5. Now, I'm not going to go into Revelations at all. I'm just going to go to the point which we're talking about, all right? And it says here that he that overcometh, the same shall be clothed in white raiments, and I will not, hello, it means that it was there to begin with. No, it was there to begin with, but I will not blot out his name out of the book of life. I will not blot his name out of the book of life, but I will confess his name before my Father and before his angels. There is something called the book of life, which your name is most likely in. Whether it will stay there or for what purpose it will be there, that's beyond my pay grade. Let's go to another book. Let's go back to our favorite book. Let's go to Exodus. Let's go back to Exodus 32. Exodus 32, 30 to 35. And the one thing about our elder, which I didn't mention earlier, but I'm sure you guys picked it up already. He could have continued with the name Malcolm. Actually, he could have continued with the name Nicky. Nicky was a cool name. It's cool, he's an artist. It's the name of an artist. His name. He could have continued with that. It's like, Shadrach, no. I want that name that, that all the people love. They love to hear, Nicky Porter coming on stage. That's the name I want to stick with. But no, he realized that he needed to assume his rightful name. And so he took the name that was written, and continued on with that. So Exodus 32:30. And it came to pass on the morrow that Moses said unto the people, you have sinned a great sin, and now I will go up unto the Lord. Peradventure I shall make an atonement for your sin. And Moses returned unto the Lord and said, man, Oh, this people have sinned a great sin, and I have made them gods of gold. Now he's got to go back and say, yeah, you were angry earlier, and I went down there, and you're right. It was bad. It was so bad that they were making actual gods, even though they know you exist. They were making gods of gold. Yet now, if thou wilt forgive their sins, forgive their sin, and if not, blot me, I pray thee, out of thy book which thou hast written. The God of Israel has written a book. And this is a hard thing. Who would do that? You would sacrifice your name not being in a book? And the Lord said unto Moses, whosoever hath sinned against me, him will I blot out of my book. So he's actually confirming what Moses just said, that he has a book and that the names are written in the book and that he has the ability to add and to blot out. Let's go to another one. Let's go to Psalm 69. If you didn't know before, you know today. If you didn't know that there was a book that your name could possibly be in, you know today. Our forefathers understood that. Our forefathers understood so much, so much. And it's just so little things like there is a book of life and my name, God willing, hopefully will be written in there and it would remain in there until the right time. Everything from your birth to your rest is written. Excuse me. Let me grab this first. Okay, so Psalm 69. Let's go to 28. Oh, actually, let's go a little bit before that. So in this situation, our forefather David, who is the author of many of the Psalms, he is at his lowest. He is at his lowest, first trying to understand where he's at, while still giving glory to the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and God of Jacob. But in addition to that, it's like, you know what? I have enemies and I can't conquer them by myself. I need you to help me conquer them, conquer my enemies. I need you. I can't do it by myself. It doesn't matter how many men I have. I can't do it by myself. Excuse me. Sorry. So in his prayer, in Psalm 69, and when you have time, please take time and read it. It says here, where is it? I'm going to read from 26. Sorry. For they persecute him whom thou hast smitten, and they talk to the grief of those whom thou hast wounded. Add iniquity unto their iniquity, and let them not come into thy righteousness. Let them be blotted out of the book of the living, and not be written with the righteous. That is some hefty prayer, and that's just a couple of verses. That's just a couple of verses. You read this, it's so sorrowful. It's so incredibly sorrowful because he's asking, what's going on? I am become a stranger unto my brethren and an alien unto my mother's children. He was at a really bad place. But he had to remember, I can't do this alone. But those that are against me, let them be blotted out of the book of the living and not written with the righteous. Remove them completely. I'm going to go back to Daniel. It's so funny because all these individuals, they are all connected. As you can see, all of them are connected. Let's go back to Daniel. Let's go to Daniel chapter 12. And I have to say that one of my amazing brethren, my elder Michael, he inspired me to go to this scripture, but it plays such an important role in what we're talking about today. And at that time shall Michael stand up. No, I'm not talking about Elder Michael here. I'm talking about, this is the Archangel Michael. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one shall be found written in the book. What book do you think that is, Israel? Friends, family, guests? What book is this? They shall be written in thy book. Okay. Let me just... Okay, let me go on a little bit more here. So everyone shall be written, everyone that shall be found written in the book, and many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame, some to everlasting contempt. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. Do I say any more? Let's conclude. Let's conclude with the perfect conclusion, which is found in the Second Testament, in the book of Luke, chapter 10. Let's go down to 17, because I want to make sure I get this in before my time runs out. And the 70 returned again with joy, saying, Lord, even the devils are subject unto us through thy name. You get the theme. The name is so important. And he said unto them, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven. Behold, I give unto you the power to tread on serpents and scorpions, and over all the powers of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you. Notwithstanding, in this rejoice not that the spirits are subject unto you. Wait for it. Rejoice not that the spirits are subject unto you, but rather rejoice because your names are written in heaven, in the book of life. You're not going to heaven, but your name is written in the book, in the archives of heaven. It's written. Maybe. So I hope, if you never thought about it too seriously before, I hope that you have given time to think about it now. That the names that we are given, the names that we give our children, is so important. It's so crucial. It is part of our culture to name our children after our forefathers and foremothers, Israelite forefathers and foremothers. However, God forbid, as with the days of old when we were enslaved, many of us were given names that our forefathers never even heard of. But they are our names because they tie us to the legacy of this book. They tie us to this. So if you change your name, you are likely cutting yourself off from the book of life. And I ask you, is this something that you want to tell your children and their children's children that, sorry, our life began and ended a couple of years ago because with my ignorance, I changed my name? How could you claim the legacy of our forefathers when you have a name that is not written, that is nobody knows? So with that, I thank you for staying, and I hope that you have already had the opportunity to like this video, and I hope that you will share it and comment in the chat, but even comment at the end, in the actual comments itself, somebody would respond. It's such a good thing, and it helps us get better traction out there. And like I said before, there is a link down below. If you want somebody to contact you, just fill out the link and somebody will contact you if you want to join the Israelite Nation. And I want to welcome everybody's favorite priest, Priest Kirk, or Elder Kirk. Such a charismatic young man. Thank you and have a wonderful afternoon.
So good afternoon, and Officer Charmaine, thank you. Names and the book of life and all of that type of information, fundamental but deep at the same time and necessary. So I'll tell you what my name is after I tell my story. When I first heard that story, the Elder Shadrach story with his passport, I figured that I had some possibility of getting a better name. So wait a second. Okay, so Malcolm and then Nikki and then, okay. So I went to go get my passport. And I said, take a look inside here. See if you see Hezekiah. Look for Hezekiah. Hezekiah Anderson. Take a look. Yeah, but nobody born in the year that you're born, 19, nobody born there. But I see a Kirk Anderson. I said, Kirk? Okay. I guess it's Kirk. And I did some research on Kirk. Kirk's a Scottish, Celtic, I think it means church. Google it if you're watching. I think Kirk means church. Can I get an amen? Can I get an amen? Kirk and church. Upon this rock, amen. And so I don't have an English accent from the UK, so I can't say Jacobite. I will say Jacobite. Same thing. It's the same thing. All right? Jacobite, Jacobite. Jack, sounds similar to something else, but you get it. So, the name is important. Officer Charmaine went right through it. What more can I talk about a name? What more can I go into? The Book of Life, if you've never seen the concept or read it and taken a look at what that is, take a look. It's deep. Something to behold. When we read stories like John the Baptist, and if you were to draw a picture of him, he would be drawn like a homeless vagabond, barefooted, hairy, hungry, bony, dusty, all of that stuff, right? You would think that it's hobo material. But wise man is fasting, steady fasting, steady. He's not interested in all the other isms and schisms. Fasting, praying, taking care of waxing the spirit that he had. So he rarely ate locusts, a little honey here to sustain a couple berries so that he doesn't pass out here and there. And he did that because he focused. Today's day, man, we don't have that. We don't have that. I got to go to work. You got to go to work. On the way driving, wherever we're going, people cutting you off. You're getting hot-tempered. Some of us have different words to say. I keep it clean, but other people keep it a little different. We got to go grocery shopping. The TV comes on. As much as we don't want to watch the TV, a verses comes on, and I take a look. I kind of look left to see who's on the verses. All these distractions. So it distracts us from really what's going on, really what's moving in front of our face. What's right in front of us, we're distracted. There was a code. There was a way to things that your forefathers and my forefathers understood. As soon as they seen it, they said, yeah, that's it. I'm going to get there. They said, yeah, that's it. They analyze, they process things because there's a unwritten and even a written rule. If this happens, it's probably because of that. The distraction moves that so we don't have time to lick our wounds. We don't have time for that. We don't lick our wounds. We move on to the next. And as the wounds pile up and the scars and the bandages get ripped off, we don't pay attention so much to it. And we further don't pay attention to perhaps the cause as to why it has happened. Proverbs 26, verse 27. And it reads, whoso diggeth a pit shall fall therein, and he that rolleth a stone, it will return upon him. Sounds like those old wise sayings that you see on a stone in the bottom of a fish pond or something. But these are things, this is Proverbs. These are things that are real. What is it saying? You dig a pit, dig 2 holes. You set up with a rolling stone to topple and to hit somebody. Eventually, it's coming back your way. There's names for this that people use in other cultures and so on. I'm going to sweat a bit because I'm a little excited. But whoso diggeth a pit they shall fall therein, and he that rolleth a stone, it will roll upon him. Let me give you one more. Let's go to Matthew. Let me give you one more. Matthew 7. You know how many times I've read this? Over the years, and it gave me a different meaning later on. Let me put you on a little game. Matthew 7, verse 1. Judge not, that ye be not judged. For with what judgment ye judge, you shall be judged. And with what measure you meet, it shall be measured to you again. And it talks about the mote and the eye and all that stuff. Judge not. It's not saying don't judge, because sometimes you do got to judge. You got to judge. You got to weigh a matter here, weigh a matter there. It's not saying don't judge. It's saying don't be so quick to judge. Don't be so quick. Why? Because with the same measurement that you use in that scenario, guess what? A year, 2 years, 10 years later, same measurement, same scale, same balance, the same weight utilized for you. These are things that our forefathers, foremothers, our people knew. We walked around with this knowledge. For the laws, the statutes, and the commandments is our wisdom in the face of all the other nations. This wisdom comes from our Father. So we carry these things. We know that. We know if we roll a stone, the stone's coming back. We know if we dig a pit, we dig a pit for us. We know these things. We know that if how we judge a matter is how you should be judged. So don't be so quick to judge or be judgmental. I know Christians run around with that saying, don't judge me, don't judge me. Right? That's not what it's saying. Don't judge me. Why are you judging? Yeah, we can judge. And we do judge. Many different situations need to be judged. But that's not what that's saying. Follow me to John 9. Now we're going to kind of segue a bit into what Officer Charmaine had mentioned. In John 9, we'll go from verse 1. And as Jesus passed by, he saw a man which was blind from his birth, blinded, can't read, can't see from his birth. Interesting question is asked. His disciples said, hey, Jesus, Master, Jesus, who did sin? This man or his parents, that he was born blind? What type of question is that? There's a blind man on the road and he's got a tin cup with a shekel, shaking it so people could hear the noise. And maybe they may drop in a shekel or two here. I saw people like Priest Tyrone, and I've seen some nice vehicles around the front and around the back and stuff like that. Drop in a shekel or two. But the question is, why do you think he's been blind since his birth? Was it he or his parents? You see, these are interesting questions, but it comes from the root of our people. It comes from an understanding, a wisdom given to us because it was told, Moses said it, the laws, the statutes, and the commandments are your wisdom in the eyes of all the nations. It's yours. So, if you have the time and the moment to lick your wounds, and you're not distracted like John as he fasted and grew hair, you'll take a look at that and say, geez, my gosh, blind since his birth. I wonder if it was he or his parents that had done something. Was it his parents that sinned, and therefore the sin passed down unto the child, and the child is born blind with that sin? I too am going to quickly, as Officer Charmaine said, I'm going to quickly jump into Revelations and skip. I'm going to skip in and skip out. Let's go to the very last last chapter and the last couple verses. Just to add a little context to this, we're going to go to verse 18. So 22, verse 18. And it says, I testify unto every man that heareth the words of the prophecy of this book. If any man shall add unto these things, this is at the end of the book here, folks. If any man, for I testify unto every man that heareth the words of this prophecy of this book. If any man shall add unto these things, God shall add unto the plagues that are written in this book. Officer Charmaine gave you about books, told you about books. We know what books we're talking about here. 19, and if any man shall take away from the words of the book of this prophecy, God shall take away his part of the book of life. God shall take away his part out of the book of life. And out of the, it's not just, it doesn't end there. There's some more details. And out of the holy city, and from the things which are written in this book. That's called cancellation. That's called removal. That's called rubbed out. And there's no part for you, no inheritance on that side of things. You are done. Zero. Eliminated. Closed for business. Out of bounds. Foul shot. All of the above. Here's the question. Let's link the last two scriptures together. And let's look at this. Do we impact our children's ability in that book? I wish I could see the chat. Let me ask it again. Do we impact our children's ability of the book of life? Do we have the ability to erase or help erase our children out of the book? Do the actions that we have done yesterday, does it impact even what we have not even seen yet tomorrow? You know, we're given that wisdom, and the scriptures are read. Our forefathers and foremothers, we lived by these things. Common knowledge, we know. We see a blind man there, we say, who was it? It was either him. It's either him or either his parents. Something was up there. You read that story, you know, and Jesus says, no, here's what this particular situation is. But that's not the point. The point is that the question was asked. And there wasn't a third option. It was just, hey, is it A or is it B? It must be A or B. What do you guys think? A or B? I don't know, man. I don't know. Blind from birth? That's probably something his parents did, maybe his grandparents, who knows, whatever. But it's on him. We see it. He's blind. He's sitting there, right? We know things about digging pits. We dig a pit, roll a stone on your brother, roll a stone on the family. The stone's going to roll back on you sometime, at some point, someday. Hey, how you judge, how you look at something, how you maneuver something, make sure that you do it with the integrity of heart and righteousness. Do it accordingly to the law, because that's what you would want happen to you. And the way that you do it is the way it comes back. Principles, not universal principles, principles of this book, principles of our nation, principles from God, our God. Where to? What do we do? Where do we go? Our people, I'll take a moment to talk about this. You know, these principles, and the reason why I said not universal is because there are universal things out there. What somebody would say, or the Indian faiths, I don't know what to call them, but I'm just going to say the Asian faiths. They have something called karma. It's associated with a deity, however. There's a god that they have that takes care of karma. So they understand it the way that they do. But our people, we jump into things, right? We want things to work out, so what do? We get chakras, moonstones, and pixie dust, fairy dust. You set up a little feng shui or feng shui, put a plant in the corner, put some metal there, put some water there, because it aligns the planets. And if the planets are lined up, then everything should work out. And you may hang something, a fruit. I've seen lemons. They hang lemon and limes at doors, and you walk in and, right, they have little altars with little Rice Krispies and little altar sticks there and a tangerine. Sometimes they peel it for the ease of the God, right? They do all these things. We have principles mandated by God. Act accordingly, then you will receive accordingly. No karma, no chakras, no moonstones, no feng shuis. Act accordingly, and you receive accordingly. Do not act accordingly, you receive the same manner. And unfortunately, things come down right upon our descendants. Matthew 27, I hope you were waiting for this, because this is a good segue. Matthew 27. I'm going to give you an example of this. So let's jump to verse 22. Check this out. You've heard it, you've said it, you've read it. Let's look at it. Pilate saith unto them, What shall I do then with Jesus, which is called Christ? They all say unto him, Let him be crucified. So Pilate is there, and he's like, well, his own people are saying, crucify him. What should I do with him? I have found nothing wrong with this gentleman. What should I do here? But the people said, crucify him, crucify him. Rid him. 23. And the governor said, Why? What evil hath he done? But they cried out more, saying, Let him be crucified. When Pilate saw that he could prevail nothing, because you can't prevail against these people when they're all together for sure. When they're all in concert together and they're all hugging and jumping and chanting and getting, crucify him, ha, he, ha. You cannot, right? So Pilate's like, okay, what you guys want? Crucify him. What's that? Crucify him. Say again. Crucify him. When Pilate saw that he could prevail nothing, but rather a tumult was made, he took water, washed his hands as he should before the multitude, saying, I hear what you guys are saying, I am innocent of the blood of this just person. I want nothing to do with this. You guys want it? Cool. See ye to it. Then answered all the people. Listen carefully. Listen carefully. Then answered all the people, and the people are Israelites. This is not one of those situations where we get to shed the blame on somebody else. This is us. He says, I see nothing wrong with this guy. Bring the water. He washed his hands. I'm good. This is what you guys want? Yeah. Okay. Then they didn't just stop there. They furthered it. And they said, then answered all the people and said, his blood, who? Jesus. Who? Jesus' blood be on us. And then they walked away. Right? I mean, you're there at the time. You're there at the time, and this has to do with you. This is what you want. This got nothing to do with me. I'm living in 2021. I'm born in 19 there. I wasn't here. I got nothing to do with this. But our forefathers and foremothers made sure that we were included. They made sure that we were included. Isn't this a bit much? Like what would have gotten into them to say, you know what? I don't care if he's innocent. Let his blood be upon us. And they didn't stop there. They said, let his blood be upon us and our children, born and unborn, to come. The tumult. You could see what Pilate is looking at. It ain't 2 or 3 people or a couple dozen people standing there. This is like a carnival setting. This is a carnival setting. There's people, it's a sea of people. And a movement, you could just see the spirit that's moving amongst them. It's just a vile, vile thing. They're there and they're, kill him, suck him, put him over, kill him, crucify him, put him on the cross, get rid of him. And if we be wrong, it's okay. Just put it on us and our children. Just put it on us and our children. The thing about that is, I think if you take a look at history, and you could ask the professor about that one day if you get him. I think the history probably suggests that what they requested, they received. The blight, the curse, the blame, the repercussion, whatever it is, laid on the heads of their children. But it's interesting that they would have the knowledge to say, put it on us and our children. It's the same knowledge as we read with all the other scriptures. Is he blind because of him or his parents? Same knowledge. Just used the wrong way. Just used the wrong way. You bless from generation to generation. You curse the same way. We're in a good stretch here. So now let's jump into some real evidence here. Genesis 37. I'm going to do a little bit of reading. I'm going to break it up a bit so that I could talk to you. But Genesis 37. All right. Where are we going to go? Let's start from the top. All right. So Genesis 37 from the top says, and Jacob dwelt in the land wherein his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan. These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brethren, and the lad was with the sons of Bilhah and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. So this is the little brother Joseph, And it says, and Joseph brought unto his father their evil report. So much animation in the story. But little brother Joseph goes back to Pops, goes back to Daddy, and brings back tales. They're doing this. And Dad, they're doing that. Dad, you know what I saw Levi doing? You don't know what I saw Levi doing? Little bro going back and forth, and he brings back the evil report, as it's phrased. Now, of course, this is family. This is not superheroes. This is not robots. This is not fictional. This is family. These are bros, little bros and big bros, all together. Now, verse 3 says, now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. So you have the little brother coming back and ratting, tattatailing. He's coming back and forth, tattatailing and big brothers. And we all see it here. It says, Jacob, Israel loved him. You don't think the rest of the brothers knew that and saw that and felt that? And then on top of that, he had a nice, colorful coat. Dad made him a nice jacket and put him on, and it was a nice coat. And, you know, he's walking, he's flaunting it, flaunting around, and, right? And just stop it! I'm going to tell Dad. Right? And when his brethren saw that their father loved them more than all his brethren, they hated him and could not speak peaceably unto him. Their story, their little brother, Joseph, they were in their feelings there. It was hot. It was a situation, and it is how it was. They just, as it says, they didn't like him. Jealousy, envy, whatever the case may be, they just weren't feeling him. And then Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it his brethren, and they hated him yet more. So it doesn't, you see how it doesn't stop. And it's good that the story gives us these details, because where I'm going with this, we need to see these things, right? There's a buildup. There's an animosity built up. It's huge there. Jacob's favorite, Joseph, and the other brothers, the rest, there's a rubbing there, and they're just not feeling him. And they hated him. And he comes now with a dream and a vision of like, what is this? What is this? And he said unto them, hear, I pray you, the dream which I have dreamed. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field. Remember, he's got on a nice colorful coat here. Don't forget that. And it sweeps the ground, right? It sweeps the ground, and it's colorful. Daddy's little boy. Behold, we were binding sheaves in the field. And lo, my sheaf arose and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves stood round about and made obeisance to my sheaf. You imagine when he finished off? And it made obeisance to my sheaf. So when he went like this, my sheaf, all you could see is the sun radiating off the colorful jacket. That's all you could see. It's radiating and it's sweeping. Right? And they look at Dad, and Dad is there. Like this, I don't know about this guy, man. And his brethren said to him, shalt thou indeed reign over us? Or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words. And he dreamed yet another dream. And he told it to his brethren and said, behold, I have dreamed a dream even more. Brothers, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me once again. And he told it to his father and to his brethren, and his father rebuked him and said unto him, what is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to thee, to the earth? And his brethren envied him, but his father observed the same. So get the atmosphere here. It's thick. This is a thick atmosphere. And they said that there's about 3 times in a row they hated him even more. It just kept going and going. Verse 14. I got to keep going. And his brethren went to feed their father's flock in Shechem, and Israel said unto Joseph, do not thy brethren feed the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send thee unto them. And he said to them, here am I. And he said to him, go, I pray thee, see whether it be well with thy brothers and well with the flocks, and bring me word again. So he sent him out of the vale of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. So after all of that, the brothers are out dealing with the flock. He's around, walking around. Says, go and just check things out with a wink. Just check things out and make sure everything's okay. Come back. Let me know if anything's, come back. So he goes. Verse 18. And when they saw him afar off, even before he came near unto them, they conspired against him to slay him. Now that is extreme. They're where they're at in Shechem, and they're dealing with the flocks. And you could imagine on the way there, the walk on the way there. Could you believe this guy? You believe this? Yeah, what's Dad doing? Like, what's Dad doing? Like, this guy just lies. He just lies and just keeps, he doesn't stop. And Dad just says, go deal with the flock. Like, I can't understand what's happening here. This is just, yeah, all of them, right? All the brothers that are talking. Yeah, I hear you, man. Is this it? Hey, whoa. Hey, isn't that him coming? Yeah. Oh. Okay. Anybody got a stone or something? You got anybody? What are we gonna do here? Right? You see how the buildup is there. 19. And they said one to another, behold, this dreamer cometh. Come now, therefore, and let us slay him and cast him into some pit. And we will say, some evil beast had devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams. All right? Here's the dreamer. His name ain't Joseph nowhere. Here's the dreamer. Look, it's a dreamer. It's Mr. Vision. Look at him. Mr. Vision is on the way. Look at that. Let's kill him. Let's kill him, and let's see. Let's see how the dreams are doing there. Let's see how the dreams are going. And Reuben, the big bro, the oldest, says, Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands and said, let us not kill him. Guys, let's not kill him. And Reuben said unto them, shed no blood, but cast him into this pit, that it is in the wilderness, and lay no hand upon him, that he might rid him out of their hands, to deliver him to his father again. So we'll just get rid of him. We don't have to kill him, but he's not coming back with us. Him in the coat is not coming back. This is it. So we put him in the pit. We're done with the dreams, right? The obeisance and the sheaves. We'll put him in there and let's cover him up with some sheaves. And he said, and it came to pass, when Joseph was come unto his brethren, that they stripped Joseph of his coat, right? Take the coat off. His coat of many colors that was on him, and they took him and cast him into a pit. And the pit was empty there. There was no water in it. And they sat down to eat bread. Right? Great little detailed story. They throw the little brother in the pit. They're leaving him there. They have no plans of bringing him back. And they sat down to eat bread and to eat and just to replenish because they're working the flocks all day and they had a little work. They took off his jacket. The jacket's right beside him there. They're all eating bread and little bro's in the pit. And they sat down to eat bread, and they lifted up their eyes and looked, and behold, a company of Ishmaelites came from Gilead with their camels bearing spicery and balm and myrrh, going to carry it down to Egypt. And Judah said unto his brethren. So I want to take note here of who said what. And Judah said unto his brethren, what profit is it that we slay our brother and conceal his blood? Guys, I've been thinking, it doesn't profit us nothing if we just cast him in the pit. Let's at least gain from this. Let's gain from this. So Reuben said, don't kill him. Said, okay. Then Judah says, there's no point in let's earn. 27, come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh, and his brethren were content. Then there passed by Midianites, merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit. And they sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites. 20 pieces of silver. And they brought Joseph into Egypt. And Reuben returned unto the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit. And he rent his clothes. He tore his clothes. And he returned unto his brothers and said, the boy is not, and whither shall I go? And they took Joseph's coat and killed of the goats and dipped the coat in the blood. So they took the coat that they stripped off of him, they sold him, they took the colorful coat, they're thinking, and they killed a goat, and they soaked it with blood so that they could bring it back to dad to say, hey, did you send Joseph? We left here and Joseph was here. Did you send Joseph somewhere? Because I don't know, is this his child? Is this his coat? And they sent the coat of many colors, and they brought it to their father and said, this have we found now, whether it be thy son's coat or no. And he knew it, and he said, it is my son's coat. An evil beast has devoured him. Joseph is without doubt rent in pieces. Okay. So that's our forefathers. And that's the interaction they had, and that's how they dealt with Joseph. Of course, there's dreams that had to come to play. There's God's hand involved in things. But at the same time, there's men being men. There's brothers being brothers. And they're not appreciating Joseph at this point, and they got rid of him in the way that they did. Take note that Judah stood up and said, let's sell him because we can get some coin for this. We can get some coin for this. So let's read on. Genesis 38. And it came to pass at that time that Judah went down from his brethren and turned into a certain Adullamite whose name was Hirah. And Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite whose name was Shua. And he took her and went in unto her. And she conceived and bare a son, and he called his name I want you to take note of these names. And she conceived again and bare a son, and she called his name Onan. And she yet again conceived and bare a son, and called his name Shelah. And he was at Chizab when she bare him. 6. And Judah took a wife for his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. And Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord slew him. I think we could do some equation work here. Can't guarantee anything, but I'm going to use the principles. I'm going to use the principles that we read in other scriptures, and we see where, hey, when you go amiss, when you go off rail, when you do things that ought not to be done, people ask questions and calculate and wonder if you've been blind since your birth because of something that your mammy and pappy did. Or was it you? The scriptures talks about digging a pit. Hey, you dig a pit, that pit might be just for you. The source of our calamity, we know this. Other nations can't really go here. But the source of our calamity lays within the hands of our sin. That's where it comes from. If something is going wrong, there's a good percentage that is because of some form of sin. From before, meaning your mom, your dad, somebody before, or you. But that's how we're able to lick our wounds and assess things appropriately. Before, talking about the book of life, that's a heavy book. That's a huge book. That's books, multiple. And the deeds that are in those books and your name. Officer Charmaine said, what happens? So you're born and your name is so-and-so, and you change it. You get you're woke. You're woke now, and now you got to change your name to whoever. So now there's a scribe. Perhaps that's a position in the kingdom, in those realms. There's somebody who walks with an eraser or whiteout. And they say, whoop, well, his name was Kirk. When we wrote it down, it was Kirk. But now he's Hezekiah. So now we got to rub it out and put it. And what happens when I become asleep again and I change my name from Hezekiah back to Kirk? Little simple things to think of. But it's wise. It's simple, but it's wise. Judah's firstborn son, not only did he die, it says he was wicked. Now, I can't stand here and say it's a direct result of what we just read in 37. But what these principles allow us to do is to question it and say, perhaps it may have went a little bit different. Continue on, verse 8. Verse 7, and Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord slew him. And Judah said unto Onan, go in unto thy brother's wife, and marry her, and raise up seed to thy brother. And Onan knew that the seed should not be his. You could read about this later on in terms of the law and responsibilities in this type of scenario. I'll leave that for yourself to take a read, but again, it's something that's within our culture, within our law, where applicable. And Onan knew that the seed should not be his, and it came to pass when he went in unto his brother's wife that he spilled it on the ground, lest that he should give seed to his brother. Second son. What happens? Verse 10. And the thing which he did displeased the Lord, wherefore he slew him also. Are we impacting our children in terms of the book of life? Are we doing the things to promote that our children's names would not be rubbed out? Are we doing those things? Are we impacting it negatively or positively? Our foreparents, we could answer the question for them, for we landed here for 400 years, not because of what we did. Not because of what we did, but because of what they did. Do we rub ourselves? Do we rub our children out of the book of life? Change your name is one thing. You change your name, do all your stuff. But the requirement, the criteria to be in the book of life, to be in there, you can't displease the Lord and he slews you. That's not something that you want written in the book when it comes time for you to be judged. You don't want a side beside your name it says, and he or she was wicked in the sight of the Lord. He or she was wicked in the sight of the Lord, wicked. Not in compliance in the sight of the Lord. These are things that we have to look at. Ezekiel 18. Let's round it out here. If you're a first-time visitor or a returning visitor, if you're one of those who have not graced us with a text in the live chat, but you've just been silently watching behind the fourth wall, we welcome you. But we also put out to you that this fantastic family, the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries, our doors are open to those that earnestly and genuinely want to serve. All you need to do to be a part of this family, to start the steps, let's take a look. In the info, the description area, there's a link. Click it. I believe in the live chat, you may have seen that link a couple times as well. Click it. There's some information you fill out to get the ball rolling. Somebody will contact you and we'll get things on the road if it is for you. No better place on earth to be. I'm going to go further. That book of life. Oh, that book of life. The Israelite nation is so integral. It is so important. I wouldn't place or gamble my name in the book of life with anybody or anywhere else. I wouldn't chance it. I wouldn't mess around and hope that this pastor is saying the right things and that pastor is saying the right things. We're saying the right things. Join the family, see for yourself. Ezekiel 18. The word of the Lord came unto me again, saying, What mean ye that ye use this proverb concerning the land of Israel, saying, The fathers have eaten sour grapes, and the children's teeth are set on edge. The children's teeth are ready to eat the sacrifices in the high hills, the sacrifices of devils, the sacrifices of foreign gods. As I live, saith the Lord God, ye shall not have occasion any more to use this proverb in Israel. Behold, all souls are mine. Pay attention. Behold, all souls are mine. As the soul of the Father, so also the soul of the Son is mine. Behold, all souls are mine. As the soul of the Father, so also the soul of the Son is mine. The soul that sinneth, it shall die. Ezekiel 18, pay attention. But if a man be just and do that which is lawful and right. So verse 4, all souls is mine. The Father and the Son. When I visit the Father, I visit the Son. The Son may not even be born yet, but I visit the Father, I visit the Son. Today I bless the Father, I bless the Son tomorrow. Today I punish the Father, I punish the Son tomorrow. Both souls are mine. If a man be just and do that which is lawful and right, and hath not eaten upon the mountains, neither hath lifted up his eyes to the idols of the house of Israel, neither hath defiled his neighbor's wife, neither hath come near to a menstruous woman. All these things is in the law. Just go back and read the law. All these things is in the law. And hath not oppressed any, but hath restored to the debtor his pledge, hath spoiled none by violence, hath given his bread to the hungry, and hath covered the naked with a garment. He that hath not given forth upon usury, neither hath taken any increase, that hath withdrawn his hand from iniquity, hath executed true judgment between man and man, hath walked in my statutes, and hath kept my judgments to deal truly. He is just. He shall surely live, saith the Lord God. He shall surely live. If he beget a son that is a robber, a shedder of blood, and that doeth the like to any one of these things, and that doeth not any of those duties, but even hath eaten upon the mountains and defiled his neighbor's wife, hath oppressed the poor and needy, hath spoiled by violence, hath not restored the pledge, and hath lifted up his eyes to the idols, hath committed abomination, hath given forth upon usury, and hath taken increase, shall he then live? Shall he then live? We're talking book of life here. We're talking a father. We're talking a son. We're talking a generation to the next generation. Does it pass down? One does iniquity, it passes down. However, if the son does the right thing, the iniquity of the father will not pass down, for he has done righteousness. He shall not live. He had done all these abominations. He shall surely die. His blood shall be upon him. Now, lo, if he beget a son that seeth all his father's sins, which he had done, and considereth and doeth not such like, that hath not eaten upon the mountains, neither hath lifted up his eyes to idols of the house of Israel, hath not defiled his neighbor's wife, neither hath oppressed any, hath not withholden the pledge, neither hath spoiled by violence, but hath given his bread to the hungry, and hath covered the naked with a garment. that had taken off his hand from the poor and had not received usury nor increase, hath executed my judgments, which walk in my statutes, he shall not die. For the iniquity of his father he shall surely live. Last verses. And for his father, because he cruelly oppressed, spoiled his brother by violence, and did that which is not good among his people. Lo, even he shall die in his iniquity. Yet ye say, why? Does not the son bear the iniquity of the father? When the son hath done that which is lawful and right, and hath kept all my statutes, and hath done them all, he shall surely live. Here's where I leave you. As a people, that cycle, we need to crack it. We can't pass down the iniquity from our hands unto our children. Those of you who are on the fence sitting watching and still dabbling in foolishness and the folly of the world, still following Christianity, still following all the anities and isms, still doing all these things, just take a peek and look and see the effect that's happening from generation to generation, and has it gotten better? I answer that question and I say no, it has not. Let's move that to the side. If you right here, right now, as it says, you do the things that are required of God, you leave iniquity, you walk on the path set for the saints, you surely will not die for the sins of yesterday, because you have righted and corrected it. Only then could you even talk or dream about the book of life and where whatever name that you have would be listed in there. That's the time. We're done. Thank you for listening to Officer Charmaine and myself today. We certainly appreciate it. All of the chats and the comments, we appreciate it. Like, share, comment, tell somebody about us, and don't forget, jump on in. You want to be a part of the Israelite Nation? Click that link. We'll reach out to you and we'll get the ball rolling. So with that, I say, peace.